kind of figuring out what kind of economy do we want and what kind of tourism do we want. I think my sense of the tourism thing is that people don't want masses, more people. They want housing. That's not. So what kind of tourism do you want, and how do we manage it? So I think it's more about if we're going to do economic development, and we're going to have community economic development and tourism development. How do we manage that? How does that fit in with the wishes of the community? Because right now, I don't feel that is fitting with the needs of the community. It's not. There's no alignment there between what's happening on the tourism front and what's happening in what we're trying to do here.
So there's you start looking through just like different community economic development strategies. Part of it is like linking the affordable housing issue to economic activity. It's about the value added on the tourism side. It's about the business licensing and time. So there's like a lot of, I feel like there's just, I don't know exactly what would be in that strategy at the moment, but the first thing would be to create it. And I've heard from several community members, it's like, I think it's time, guys, like that we get a community economic development strategy happening here on Bowen Island, because it's pretty willy-nilly and we're feeling the effects, especially for tourism, we're feeling the effects of like not having something.
But I think exactly, you hit the nail on the head in the sense that there is a case to be made out, right? Not everybody on the council is convinced that we need to do anything on economic development or tourism development, because it's all coming along quite nicely in some people's eyes. So I think that the first task I think what we're suggesting today is that we set up a small working team to figure out what does the case look like to put to council, and a job description and what we put to get out of it. Because there's a job to do to convince council that we need this. So.
Yeah, it would be nice to see some tangible items that an economic development officer, would be involved in, examples or situations that.
Yeah.
In defining going
Can
forward,
we
can
maybe invite? I know West Van is not the same, but can we invite their new economic development officer over to talk to us about that?
That's a good idea.
I would like to make the distinction between economic development officers and community economic development officers.
Well, okay, please do.
There's a significant distinction there. So I'm not sure if the West Van position is a community economic development position, but there are two very kind of different approaches to economic development. So one of them just is like, if I'm really sort of crass with the distinction, one of them is just like, yeah, let's attract businesses and enterprises here. The other one is like, let's create economic activity and build the community supports around it. So for example, affordable housing, a big issue in our community, would be something in the remit of an community economic development officer, as would community character, the culture of the place. So it's about creating economic activity that's in line with the culture of the place that we have. Economic development folks, if you go to bigger cities around the province, they're just wanting to get like, hey, we need a big box store, or we need to have a mill here, or so we're attracting industry and we're working on those kinds of things. And the two have fundamentally different approaches. The smaller communities tend to work with community economic development principles and practices a little bit more, because everything's so much more integrated and so much tighter. And I strongly believe that would be the approach that would work here. I mean, that's basically what we do anyway. If you look at the nature of our conversations, is that. So my advice would be, yeah, we could bring in the West Van person, but I think let's also look at communities that are more similar to us. I'm not sure if Gibson's or even sort of the local places have community economic development folks that are working with them. But there's lots nearby, and there's, I think getting a sense of what that whole field would look like, I think would give us a sense of what everybody else is doing. So.
Well, that's sorry, just to comment on that community economic development officer point. I found myself after our September meeting at Docs, just talking in casual conversation with people about community economic development and realizing that I didn't really have in a mouthful, you know, what the difference and the distinctions are. And so I think that's important.
I'll
you know,
put some
that you
stuff
bring it
together for
up.
you, how about that?
Yeah.
Action item.
5 minutes about CED,
Perfect.
yeah, from the Simon Fraser Community Economic Development.
Excellent, yeah. I think that's
Self-reliant,
important.
community-based, sustainable, asset-based, participatory.
Mhm.
Very different from like, oh, come and build here.
So, yeah, go ahead.
So my statements certainly reveal my biases, but when we talk about exactly what you, those words you used, Chris, and the community economic development. So who's doing that? That's just the entrepreneurs, businesses, nonprofit organizations. They're all doing that right now. That's what they do. And so in some ways, I think the biggest thing we could do is support those organizations that are doing that work now. So my concern is when you bring in a CDO or EDO at, you know, it's going to cost a lot of money, be realistic though, you know, and that's an ongoing basis. So it's, I don't know, $100,000 a year. It certainly would cost a municipality that with benefit plans, et cetera. So that's a commitment, ongoing commitment. So in 5 years, we said $500,000 at least of taxpayers' monies. And you know, are you getting the same results? And that would be excellent. I'd be thrilled if we're seeing metrics and we can base, we can look at, see what's being done over 5 years. But wouldn't that same investment in some of those groups that are already doing things, would that reap a better return? I mean, I wonder, because I think that we talk, and in this, our community, we throw money at problems, and sometimes it's misguided or misdirected, and 5 years later, nothing has changed. So, but where we're seeing these organizations, businesses struggling all the time. So my biggest question is, how can we help what we already have and build what is already there, as opposed to looking for some solutions, again, from outside, saying, okay, an EDO is going to create the solutions to our problems.
Right.
So I'm just, you know, I'm still not sure what they would do on the ground that would make that difference in 5 years.
Yeah.
And if I can be convinced that absolutely there would be strong merit in having somebody in that role.
You know,
that would be
the
great,
point you're
but-
making is a really good one, and for me, what it makes me think is that the job isn't to throw money at the problem; it's actually to throw capacity at it. So I feel like from the perspective of like participatory economic development strategies, that capacity can be represented in lots of different ways. And you're right to name like all of those organizations that are doing all of that kind of work. And so when we think about what would I think over the past year or two, we've been confronted with issues that are probably best dealt with in a plan. I think that's kind of where we're at, right? So that could be affordability, that could be tourism, the two big ones like affordable housing and tourism. Maybe there's some other issues around business development and so on. But I think at this point, like we're unable to deal with them on a monthly basis. So a plan. And what we throw at that plan, if we could say that the principle is like throwing at that plan is capacity in the community to address those things, to organize those things together. One of the other distinctions for me between community economic development and just an EDO is that an EDO comes in and solves the problems. A CED practitioner would come in and organize that capacity. So it'd be like, what are the assets you've got, sort of asset-based? What are the assets you've got in the community? How can we bring everybody together? How can we get a housing authority started? How can we get businesses on board with this kind of stuff? How can we support arts organizations and, you know, extending what they're doing? So it becomes a community effort around the plan and not something executed from the community office. So I think that's a really good point and a really good principle to build in.
And it is a way, in a way, supporting the existing organisations, because
Yeah.
we're using the money. We have money, you know, but we can't get it done because we don't have time.
Is this a full-time role? Because I sort of got the sense that we're parceling together a bit of money, that it was more of a part-time role.
Temporary role.
Yeah, contract for 18 to 24 months or something like that. I didn't get the sense it was a $100,000 salary job.
No, but if it evolves into that, your point's
Oh,
really
yeah,
well
if it
taken,
evolves,
right?
absolutely.
Your point's really well taken.
It's a very good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, how can we best use these funds?
And I do understand the need for a plan. I mean, the strategy is really important. It creates direction and focus and stimulates the conversation. So I do get that, absolutely. And who else is going, and we don't have the resources, we don't have the time for that.
And that might ask the question around this first.
I would see, I think in order to put together a proper case, we ought to consult with some of these other bodies like the Arts Council and see what do you need it, could you do with more resources of a person? How would that help? Because I think I see this role as pulling together a lot of different things, like the tourism aspect, the economic development, art, all the sort of bodies that you mentioned are doing all that work. How could that help? Even the businesses. What would they say if there was a person that was there to help?
What do they need?
What would that look like?
What other steps you can take for this process, like having a CDO come and talk to us, like talking to
Yeah.
other groups, like, can you take a little investigative
Who's taking this on? Yeah,
actions?
whose action item is this?
Yeah, let's, sorry, but.
No, that was my question too,
small,
what are the next steps?
Threatening actions can take place that would.
And I'd love to
provide
ask
more
my questions
information.
of somebody who is a CDO, absolutely,
Right.
and and ask them and find out.
So that- so-
That would be really
Can
helpful.
I suggest this? Steph, we don't probably use you as well.
Okay, so I just gave
And
myself
we
a
do have
tap.
staff, that's right, we have
Could
staff.
you possibly see if you can find one or two CED folks from similar communities and see if you can get someone to come and talk to us about this? And
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Or can we video conference too? Because I feel like sometimes it's a big ask to come all the way over here,
Yeah.
but do we have?
I'm good at asking,
Okay.
but that's good to have in my pocket as well.
Sure.
So I'll
But
send
but it would be part of our budget to bring someone over to talk to us like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And
I'll send you a
Buy
link.
them lunch.
I'll send you a link of CED net members
Ah.
that are local,
That's great.
and we can find.
And I think at some point soon we need to bring in Kathy and see, get her, so maybe at the next meeting she could.
It's going to be very challenging for her to be here on Friday. Maybe, do you want to start with you and Chris setting up a meeting?
Yeah, I think we could have a chat with her.
And when this person comes in, have another date and ask Kathy to be there as well. I think it'd be helpful for
Okay.
Kathy to be in the room when,
Yeah.
when this person is addressing us. It would be really great.
Set another meeting date.
It's just- She's not available Fridays, generally, because she was she was coming to our meetings previously.
Yeah, it's the Langdale commute on Fridays is
Which I'll-
prohibitive, yeah.
Fair enough.
So, and now I'm getting excited, so maybe a couple of different people coming, a showcase. Or maybe a
That
couple,
would be fun.
Yeah.
well, like we
A
did
couple
with the
different-
business licensing.
A panel almost.
Yeah.
like we're having
Panel.
I think if we get someone from the SFU program, there's a certificate program in community economic development at SFU. I mean, there's practitioners there that teach in that
Yes.
program. If we had somebody from SFU come over and maybe they brought with them a local practitioner, that would be a really, and we just did like a special, just an hour, they can present what CED is, how it can benefit kind of Bowen Island, that kind of stuff. I'll send you a link and then we can, if you want to
Excellent.
work with me to kind of vet some folks or choose some
Sure.
folks, we can do that. Let's do that.
Does that feel comfortable for you then? Like, it's
Yeah, absolutely.
looking we're in and you can tell them bring examples of their contracts.
Well, their
It's
plan.
your contract, we just want to know what are your
Just leave us your
deliverables.
plan when you leave.
Their community plans, their job descriptions, like how do we do it?
And the
I mean,
strategy
We can
events.
ask, yeah, let's ask them, like, how do you do this? We
Yeah,
don't like.
I'm curious how they spend a day.
Right.
Yeah, I
you
think
know.
samples of job descriptions, if it's, not too
So,
late to ask, would be
in the
very
loot
useful.
bag, the loot bag.
I mean, Kathy may be a great resource on this. She may have
Maybe.
some, ideas about this. Right?
Oh, and people she can ask other,
Yeah.
yeah.
Geez, I'll tell you, Google is such a great source of information.
That's a statement.
Here's the Burns Lake job description for the,
Ah.
here's the Coldwood
Are you
job
sending all these, or
description.
Could we, well,
can
should
you
we?
just be sharing that?
Yeah,
Chris, are you open to meeting with Kathy?
yeah.
So Chris and I will try and get together with Kathy and,
Primarily to talk about it, see.
just to sort of, because I think the sooner we mention it to her, the better, because, you know, I'm sure they're thinking about, you know, longer term about hiring and that kind of thing, so. And she's the person that we really need to convince about this, at the end of the day.
Well, we need to, I think the committee needs to be clear
Yeah.
Right,
first.
yes.
Yeah.
I think that's really
Yeah,
important.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is part of our EDC work plan. So the plan we're saying is to see if we want to explore the idea of hiring a local or community
Yeah.
officer. In addition to that, what?
What else is on the work plan?
Well, just as one other thing to add to the potential for having someone like that in, I'm trying to imagine, is it just gonna be us here, or, you know, like, who's it gonna be doing? And speak to your point about the assets, the Arts Council, the businesses, the entrepreneurs and whatnot. It would be interesting to have liaisons from different community organizations and open to the business community to attend.
Yeah.
So that would be, that would quite expand the scope of the meeting.
Well, maybe we could have someone come for the January 23rd meeting.
Well, that's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
yeah.
that, we could put that on the agenda for that, so.
I think even a panel discussion might be
Mhm.
maybe a good idea, and
Panel discussion at the 23rd?
Yeah.
sounds like we don't want to create another event, so.
Well,
that make
No, I
sense.
think-
I thought there was some smaller level kind of discussion that needed to happen before that.
Well,
level
I think so,
commitment.
but it sounds like that's kind of the, and I mean, even at if we're gonna bring anyone over, maybe we could have a select number of people that are outside of this committee that would get invited specifically to get their feedback or.
I think it should be open. I think it's an offer to the community to find out what such a role would bring to our community and, yeah, for information education around development. And I'm thinking maybe we don't do it with the summit because the summit, again, is going to be pretty focused, I think, in attracting business, although I know we're going to reach out beyond that. And people might have to miss it. So what about another date, possibly early, I don't know, if we want to tie it into January or whatever, but just specifically to invite 2 or 3 CDOs, EDOs, and yeah, have a robust conversation.
I think I'm in favor of that, like sometime, if it could even be before the January summit, to have that, and then
Maybe
and
influence
invite
it,
people
right, or
maybe,
format.
but yeah, it's for us, for Kathy, for that to really get a hold of what it's
Like
gonna
have a
be.
smaller,
A smaller meeting.
because this is wide open at this point, just to
Yeah.
get
I
a
think this is an open meeting,
start.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
then, yeah, maybe it's that format, and then at the business summit, maybe it's just, I don't know what the format of that is yet, but it's a smaller segment that just says, hey, this is what we're thinking about, here's 15 minutes, let's discuss, or let's do an interactive thing, hear what your thoughts are about it. And it's just a way to engage them in it, and then there's more stuff after that, but, yeah, I think
the
it's
first
enough,
step.
I think the first step, and
Yeah.
it would be enough to have a 1 or 2 hour meeting with them to really ask lots of questions, and I think that might take up too much time in the summit.
And that can help us build a case if we are moving
Yeah.
forward on that, or if we've already invited the public, invited businesses, and that community stakeholders to come in and talk and then see what the reaction is to.
Okay, so the process we're thinking about, that we're suggesting is, you're gonna find out, get some information about what does it look like, maybe get some job descriptions, what do they do, find out what do they do in other communities. We can look at that, and then we can talk to Kathy, and then we can, when we've got that, we can decide whether or not it's something we want to push forward with and propose to council.
So sorry, did I hear you all say we would go ahead and organize a panel discussion? Is that in there or?
Yeah, we could do a panel discussion on the 23rd.
I'm
January,
suggesting we
or
do
you
it
saying
in
separate,
dates.
or another time?
Yeah.
Well, we can decide about that, can't we, when we get the information? All right. Could we-
Do you want me to try for next month? See, like
Find
next,
something for next month, like,
yeah, to have them come, keep it really simple, have them come here.
during our EDC meeting,
Yeah.
and then we just do
That
the
would
little.
certainly be the easiest.
I took just because it's like
Schedules.
event planning
Let's do a piece.
and then there's a
What
like.
is the date of our, do you know stuff about
Yeah,
that? I
it's,
just don't have it in front of me, I'm not sure here.
No,
Oh.
Friday, November 10th.
Is it possible to move that to the week
Yeah.
after?
To
The week after?
Is that a long
Then I won't be
weekend?
there.
Does Remembrance Day bump to the Monday? Is that a long weekend?
Yes.
Yeah. So that might impact
Yeah,
attendance.
I'll be here on that day. but
Chris, was
not-
there any talk about the Friday day, planning meeting, changing that at all? Okay.
Good.
Wasn't there an agenda item to talk about the dates of
Yeah.
October and December?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is.
Yeah, new business, possible EDC meeting schedule changes.
All right.
Okay.
So if we're gonna change it to a Friday, what about possibly changing it to a
That's the only day I can Fridays.
Oh, that's your Monday, okay.
Well, you want to move it to Thursday? You want to move it to Thursday?
I think we were just talking, if Kathy,
I thought
we
I
want
did.
Kathy to join us, we can't meet on Friday, but that's okay, if you can't meet on Friday, we'll keep it on Friday.
We can
Yeah.
Skype, you know,
I mean,
Skype, we can maybe Skype Kathy in if we.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So Friday the 17th?
so I definitely will be away then.
Oh, so when?
I'm here on the 10th.
Oh.
But
But
You are on the 10th.
the 10th actually
Oh.
is the stat holiday,
Is the 10th the state holiday?
Yeah.
Not,
because the
That's
11th.
a Friday, wouldn't it be the Monday?
Oh,
doesn't get bumped to the Monday?
I don't.
But on my calendar, it says observed on Friday, but I don't know, maybe that's wrong. Oh, no, I don't know, maybe.
None of us
Yeah.
have those kinds of jobs.
Yes, that's true. It's not us, but actually, it makes it better for me.
Is the Muni
Other
This
people.
room does.
Is the Muni
I just
closed?
Oh, yeah, that's,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
probably closed that day then.
Yeah.
What about the 9th?
That's a Thursday, but it sounds like John.
I'm away
might
the
be-
first 2 weeks of the
Oh,
month.
you're just
Yeah.
away. Okay.
So you wouldn't have been here on the 10th anyway, John? Is that right?
I'm not here on the 10th.
Okay.
I'm going to be in
Okay.
Hong Kong.
What about the 1st of December?
So the
First
week
of
of the,
December?
the week of the 14th, you're away.
I am.
Well, the 1st of December might give us more time to organize having someone here.
Yeah, I won't be here.
You
I'm
won't
not,
be
yeah,
here?
I'm not away.
How about 23rd of November, that's a Wednesday.
I'm also not here. I'm gone for 2 weeks.
I have the 17th or the 10th in November, or December.
What's your December date?
We have.
I've got
Well,
it
we have it
on
on the
bank
8th.
holidays and it's the Monday.
We have
Remembrance
a
Is it?
meeting on the 8th of
Okay,
December.
all right.
Yeah, I can't make
You
that.
can't make that one. What about on the
The
15th
7th?
of December?
I have the 7th or 14th or the 15th.
15th of December?
Yep.
What
Of
about
December.
15th of December for the panel discussion?
Ooh, I don't know. That sounds a little crazy.
Well, we have a meeting, we
Why
have
does
a
that
meeting on the
sound
8th.
It's like 10 days from Christmas.
I know, but we have a meeting set for the 8th.
Yeah.
Chris can't go, can't be
Okay,
there.
alright.
So if we were to move that to the 15th anyway, I mean,
It's fine by me. I
it's,
don't have.
December's
Yeah.
just a month.
I know.
Okay, so discussion about a CEDO on the 15th,
50,
I'm just.
and change, that's going to be the EDC meeting.
and that would be the ABC meeting, so it would be twice. Okay.
And next meeting, we just get some information, we prepare, and then on the 15th, we talk about it in detail.
Circulate a little invitation to the public, maybe obviously on the municipal page and a little article or something,
Mm.
I think that'd be great.
and just help have it here. Invite people to join us.
Nice.
See if
That
anybody
sounds
comes.
All right.
Okay,
Can do that.
And so we're sticking with November 10th as our meeting? We'll just stick with that?
and that, yeah.
Yeah,
Chris
that's-
can
Because
be-
it sounds like it's either you're away or.
I won't be here either,
or-
and John and I
John's
both won't be
away,
here on
so.
the 10th, I guess. No, I'll be here on the 10th, sorry, I'm confused. But it'll be huge.
I think it's probably best to stick with the
Yeah.
schedule
Yeah,
unless there's a
okay.
strong reason to.
Yeah.
Okay. Business continuity, anything on that, Robert?
No, as I said, it's just kind of a work in progress.
Okay.
Did we talk about housing though in our strategic plan? Did we skip over that or can we go back to that?
Oh, well, I think the,
Okay, yeah.
so step. if you
Sorry, it
could-
was very difficult to get a clear answer there, but,
Sorry?
okay.
Chris
That's
is doing
all.
that, I think.
Mondays, the office is closed.
Okay, so.
Okay.
Is
so
it
what
closed
we're
on that
doing-
Friday? What it is?
We
closed?
think it's,
Yeah.
it's usually they're observed on the Monday. So
Okay.
I just said, well,
That's
Ron said something about observing.
Yeah, no,
And we went on
Robin-
the websites and it was all like, just saying Saturday, and we're like,
Right.
what about the weekday? So
Okay,
we're sticking with Mondays.
so I
closed
think
Friday.
Okay,
the
thank
outcome
you.
of this is that you're going to try and do some, you're going to do some research on what does a CEDO do, what's their job description look like in other communities.
Yeah.
And you can, Chris and I can talk to Kathy.
Yeah, I'll talk, I'll work with you on it.
Yeah. And then, so on the 10th, so we're sticking with the 10th of November for the next EDC meeting.
Okay,
You can present some information and the committee can discuss.
okay.
And then we're going to change the EDC meeting from the 7th of December, is it, or 8th of December to the 15th.
Okay,
And that will, then we'll invite members of the public to have a panel discussion about possible CED.
to that 15th.
Yeah, so we'll get the information in November, to consider it, open it up for discussion in December, and then after that, we should be in a position to decide whether or not we like the idea or not.
Okay.
Is there anything else on my thinking about the strategy document or the work plan is that we've got it. It's good that we've done it and we've got it all there, but we're not in a position to carry much forward on this apart from, I mean, we obviously want to stay, I think we're interested in housing, but is there a lot we can do?
Oh, well, so yeah, mine, and I apologize I didn't get a chance
Okay.
to actually type this out. So my response to what you had said in that Google document was, in my mind, it's not us taking on the housing issue as an EDC, because agreed, like
Yeah.
way too big a thing, way
Yeah.
too complex. Where I see us very, very specifically focusing in is engaging the local business community in how it's affecting them and getting more than anecdotal informal chats from people saying, oh, this is hard, or, I mean, we have evidence from Rondi literally willing to fork out money and doing a rezoning to get worker housing. I would like to engage with the business community, and I think the plan is maybe at the summit to do it or something. I guess Chris and I haven't talked about it because we were hoping to do a November event, but I think that's fallen by the wayside. We both are at capacity this fall. So whether it's in the new year or at the business summit, just to somehow engage the business community on Bowen, how is housing affecting you? Can we put some actual numbers or actual things to this? And then that's just it's just more robust information rather than just informal anecdotal information. And then that's the first thing that I see that's very specific, just gathering that information, and then either maybe it's a small report that goes up to council just to let them know, maybe it's something that goes into the work of this community development officer, but I just feel like that's the one thing that we can do is actually engage with them, and I feel like at least they would, if I was a business owner, I would at least feel that the municipality is hearing me and is asking me and is then hearing me, as opposed to right now, it's nothing. Like it's just nobody's talking about it, nobody's actually formally discussing it. So that's the one very specific thing that I think we can do. Yeah, and I would say, I agree with you, let's keep it to that. Like I don't want it to be this huge, broad, we're gonna solve housing. Let's just do that one thing and then see what the next steps might be.
So gauging the impact of the affordable housing issue on in our economy, actually.
Yes, well said, yeah. What's the impact it's having on the local business?
And that's going to be a thing at the summit.
Well, we haven't
I'd
really
say
discussed
they
it, but it could be, or,
Sorry, Bob, and I
Yeah.
say local economy rather than local businesses.
Okay,
Because
thank
it's
you.
not just businesses, right? It's being, but it's economic.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my point is that, so if you can't find volunteers because nobody can afford to live here, that's gonna have an economic impact on any, everything from people shopping at your stores to delivering all kinds of services and programs.
Yes.
So it's an economic impact of affordable housing, lack of affordable housing.
I think that's a really great way to put it. I really appreciate that distinction. And I think that, in my mind, also opens up to who we might invite. So whether it's at the business summit, or I'm really open to it being something separate, maybe as well. It doesn't, maybe it's in the new year. And I think that would be a great way to engage other parts of the community, to invite them to say, how is this perceived lack of affordable housing? It's just all kind of, it's there, but how is it impacting you and your organizations and the local economy?
And you're doing it through the business, the Bowen Housing Network. I understand you're you're trying to get a grant from the Community Foundation for that? Do an assessment or something?
Not yet, but it's something that's on our radar. Yeah, so the Bowen Housing Network met with some council members and Kathy Lalonde a few weeks ago, and it's definitely something that we see as a need. We'd love to have some data, like a survey or some sort of census or whatever it is to get the information, what are the housing needs on Bowen, from businesses but others as well. Like, I would love to see it just to be an island-wide survey to say, because as I mentioned, an hour ago in our other discussions, there's a lot of people that are housed right now, but they're not in accommodation that actually suits their needs or their budget, but they're in there because that's all they can afford.
right.
That's all they can find, right? Or I shouldn't say afford, sorry, you're right, that's all they can find. So it would be nice to actually survey people to say, okay, first of all, like, are you happy with your housing? If you're not, what else would you like? All that stuff. So just we have actual information as a community to say, what is the housing needs? What are the housing needs for the next 5 or 10 years? That kind of thing. So it's a work in progress. I'm just personally working on it to try to see what is the right mechanism. And certainly it sounded in our meeting that there was support for it, but I would love it if it was the EDC did it, but I don't know that that's the appropriate vehicle. Maybe it is this community economic development officer. I'm just sort of figuring out who that is. And I think the community foundation would be an opportunity for a grant. I would hope they would be open to supporting that. And so whether that's through our little housing network or through another profit or in some way. So it's on my radar. But I'm not 100% convinced that the EDC is the appropriate vehicle for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the next, so one item on the on our agenda for next time, Steph, should be organisation of the summit. We need to get
Right.
onto that. If we're going to do it on the 23rd of January, then maybe we need to be giving a heads up to people, and we need to get serious about what we're actually going to do.
And is it the subcommittee that's kind of takes the lead on? Like, is there going to potentially be a
Yeah,
subcommittee meeting?
I would
BRE,
take,
so-
yeah, but I would take any volunteers
Right.
who would want to do this with me. What do you
Yes,
think?
yeah.
Because
I'm
Was
keen to help.
Is Shannon gonna be?
You know, I just need someone I can call.
Okay.
You know, and I know.
Okay.
So anybody who wants to help us, like, let's get that.
Yeah,
let's
I
get
can,
that
I
going.
can help you guys with that.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Well, I think it could be a whole, I think the whole EDC can, that's a big initiative and a big effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can all chip in to get that working on this.
Yeah.
January
We'll ask for
23rd,
help.
because,
Yeah, that's.
We'll ask for
So my only question is it an item at the next meeting, or is there a separate meeting that should happen?
Probably a separate.
Yeah.
Just to
Yes,
dedicate
yeah.
to that
I think a
plan.
separate, let's have a little plan.
Figure out what needs to be
Okay.
done, yeah.
And I think everyone's a welcome, and we'll just try and set
Find
a
it.
separate time.
Date.
Yeah, exactly. Sports is going to be when
Well,
Chris
that should be something on the agenda for next time.
But yes,
Just to-
yeah.
Just to brief
Update.
everybody up. Okay.
So I'll stay behind just at the end.
Sure.
So you guys are forming a subcommittee right now?
Well, it's part of the
No.
EDC, I mean, sorry, part of the BRE.
I think it's
isn't it?
Part of the BRE, okay,
Yeah,
so
That's
it
what I
was
kind of
in the
think
BRE.
of it as, part of the BRE.
Okay.
And has an invitation, like a heads up, save the date thing gone out? Should we do that now, considering it, or like when should we do that?
After we have that meeting and.
Okay.
And exactly do a timeline for everything.
Okay.
I agree.
Instead.
So we'll need to meet sooner than
Okay.
later.
John,
Okay.
in terms of our work plan, am I correct in that understanding, we need to submit a work plan and a budget to council, is that right? That's kind of
Well,
a
this is
recommendation
certainly
from us.
not a work plan.
No, I appreciate that.
That we could submit to council. I think, my feeling is that we ought to just lie low a little bit until we are clear about what our thing is about hiring somebody. Because we're not in a position to set up more subcommittees or tackle new stuff at this point, I don't think.
Agreed, yeah. I'm just thinking that they are expecting, maybe not, I don't know what the timeline is on this, Steph, you probably know better, but a budget, usually with a budget, we would be submitting it in the fall.
So this would normally be taking place because we don't have a manager of finance right now.
Right.
I'm assuming everything is going to
Is this
be
kind of on hold or just delayed?
just delayed, yeah.
So.
But
So
they
that
would,
works
I mean,
out
but
for
then
you.
when that, when they are in place,
They'll be
you
looking
don't
for
want to
that
be a
information.
pain in their butts, right? So
Okay.
Our ducks
Sorry,
ready.
guys, I'm conscious of time. Our meeting's basically up. Chris, do you have anything quickly to add for the lobbying?
I said it already.
Okay. New business, we've changed the December meeting. Steph, you got that?
To the 15th.
Yeah. Information items, so I think we're going to go to that. That's about it, right? Anything else, any other quick things before we,
Well, the information items, I just have the strategic pillars there, just because that's, as Maureen was saying, that there was a sense that this year, the There's only one item for the EDC for priorities, and that's to do with transportation. So if I just use those as examples of what the EDC has had in the past, and that is something else that needs to be formulated and articulated to council before they go into the planning sessions, which would be in December.
Yeah, this is the one thing I wanted to say. I think we'll need to make a decision in November, with the November meeting, about what it is we're gonna have to put in that pillar. And, you know, the work plan can follow that, but we're facing kind of a big decision. Like, we can carry on as we've been, or we can say that there's one piece of work that we can ask them to ask us to do, is create an economic development strategy for both. Like, if that's what we're asking them to do, they can put it in their island plan. And then, you know, that would dictate like our work plan and a bunch of other stuff for the next year. So it's actually kind of a big decision. So in the effort, in creating the notes from our session, there was the piece at the end, in our island plan pillar, is the last few bullets. And so where we left at the end of that little planning session was that with these bullet points, and this is what I wanted, we've kind of put a delay on it. This is what I actually wanted to have wording done before they decide on their island plan. So it doesn't have to be like a massive work plan for them, but if we want them to give us a job, we have to tell them what that job is. And so we talked about completing implementing business licensing, education meetings between local businesses, addressing housing issues, short-term accommodation policy, development and stewardship of the brand, becoming a CED, or carrying on with the CED stuff. So, and feedback I've had from other people who looked at this as well, and some of our folks that work on like Ed and Sherry and some of those other folks too, is just like, just get them to give you the ability to develop a plan. Like, now is the time for an economic development strategy or a plan that can roll in all of this stuff in a way. So that's why I've been kind of like musing on this, is